Good.
Were there masses in the?
Yeah, are you gonna do that thing you were just?
No, you're good.
Just getting a thumbs up.
They move so easily.
Hello, masses of people. Thank you for joining our legislative committee presentation. This year, or actually today, we're going to be going over the 2019 new laws impacting the intellectual developmental disabilities community. Our committee chairperson is not here today, but her name is Linda Mendoza. And the other committee members include Dina Hernandez, Liz Knapp, Robert Valderrama, Damie Hunart, Emily Grunder, and myself, Candace Bright. And we also have VMRC representation from Doug Witte and Tony Anderson. So our first person talking will be Tony Anderson.
All right, great. Oh, please, stop, please. Oh, all of you. Even those in the balcony, thank you all. All right, you've heard about who we are, and we thought we'd start off with, we're going to cover trailer bill information, what that is, chaptered bills, that means the bills that have been signed, and then we're going to give you some of the bills that were actually vetoed, just so you get a sense of what was proposed, and then that meant that the bill made it all the way through the process to the governor's desk. So there was at least enough interest in that idea to move it on through. And then sometimes there's a policy implication for why the governor vetoed. So we thought we'd include them as well. And then we thought we would do a little bit about the process. So I'm sure you can all see this, but maybe I'll get a little closer and describe it a little bit more. Those of you familiar with the process, this will be old for you, but we thought we'd at least give you some from overview. So, of course, the very beginning is an idea, so people have to come up with an idea. A lot of times it's industries or it's advocates who are struggling with some laws or some regulations that are in place, and they want to change it a little bit. And so they come up with these ideas, and they either tell an association or they go right to their legislator, and anybody can do this. They go right to your legislator and say, hey, this is happening and it's impacting me and my family or my friends or our community, and you introduce this idea to a legislator. So that's one way. Sometimes legislators put a ask out. They say, hey, anybody want to propose some idea, some citizen, and they call it, there ought to be a law or something like that, and they just ask everybody, what are your ideas? And then from there, they choose a couple of those ideas and they put it together. Now you don't have to worry if you have one of these ideas, you don't have to worry about being a lawyer or knowing the law or those kinds of things. What you're doing is putting forward this idea of the way the world should be, sort of, and something that's bothering your community or you. They'll come up with how it works within the context of the current law, what are the parts of the law impacts, and the legislative council will write it up, and they'll analyze it to make sure it's even constitutional, and then they'll put it together. And then you begin the process. So you begin in California. We have an assembly, state assembly, that's listed on the bottom of their process, and then we have the Senate. So that's how it works. Here on the top is their process, and in our system they kind of mirror each other. And then once you make it through, it switches to the other. So you've got the idea here. You introduce it. In California, you've got to introduce you got to read it a few times so people have a chance to have heard it, and so that you don't just railroad things through. And the reason for that was because of the railroads. Back when, many years ago, when they were king, they were getting things through and just kind of passing them through. People didn't even know about them. They were just getting to the floor and they're getting passed. So you gotta read it 3 times in California. So our bills will be read several times before it moves on. Then after it moves on through the House that it was originated, then they'll assign it to the Rules Committee. And the rules, they decide where does it go. So is this a bill, what's the topic? Health and Human Services committees, education, those kinds of things. Or they decide that it's also gonna cost a lot of money, or it's gonna cost money. And then it also gets assigned to an appropriations committee. So they make all these decisions of where it's gonna go. Is it gonna cost money? Well, it need to go there. Sometimes it'll go to more than one committee, more than those 2 committees. And then it begins that process. Goes to each one of those committees that it was assigned to. And if it passes there, then it makes it to that House. So this is it's a bicameral system, right? 2 different places, and this one here is in the assembly. It goes back to the assembly floor, and let's say it passes, and usually they let them pass through, and they then have to go over to the other house. And the same exact thing happens over there. So if you make it through your house of origin, then that gives you the right to go into the other house. And then you do the same process again. So then you move along, there's all these different committees, all these different things that happen, sometimes more than one committee, sometimes it doesn't pass the original, and then makes it on through. And then, at some point, at the end, by September 15th, that all has to be done. So if you haven't had your bill passed that second house and clear all the way through, then the bill doesn't make it to the governor's office. If it does, at least by that point, then it gets into the governor's office, and he has until October. That's a lot of different things that are going on, and a lot of boxes I didn't cover, but just as an overview, before it even comes to you, for us to tell you about it, it's got to go through all of these processes. And there are thousands of bills that go through these processes. We only track about 100 of them. So there are about 100 of them, and many of them die pretty quick. Then they make it on through, and then that's what you get here. Either the governor passes it, or he vetoes it, or he just lets it die without a signature. So that is your quick civics lesson on how it works here. In Congress, it works a completely different way. So won't even cover that. Community safety. Who's got community safety? Oh, Dina. Oh, that means me. Okay, so these are the bills that made it through, that got chaptered. That means they got signed, and there's a chapter in law where this bill is covered. And there are 5 of them, and we'll give you a quick review of some of these. So AB 189. So it's called the Child Abuse or Neglect Mandated Reporters, and for autism services personnel. And all this bill does is it establishes that the autism services personnel, people that are certified in this and provide this service, are now specifically highlighted in the abuse reporting legislation in the law. So this now specifies them in particular, just in case there was any question about whether or not they were mandated reporters. It also creates a crime, because if they don't report, then they can be amongst the others who, right, could be in prison or jail up to 6 months jail time if you don't report. Everybody knows that, and you could receive a fine of $1,000. So this is a brand new crime for this profession, but it's already been existing for many of us in the room. This adds to that. The next one is the Mark Stone's AB 439. And this one has to do with developmental centers, naming developmental centers. Now this is just a quick technicality kind of bill. You used to write in the law about that you were deflecting from certain places, but there are no longer a deflection from developmental center in this particular area. There was a mention of it before they're removing it. So it's the state's recognition that there will be no developmental centers in the state. So they're removing that in this option. So it is a technicality, but if you think about it, it's an important moment in time where different laws that we've got on the books that talk in relation to the reason we have them is because some kind of connection to a developmental center, they're now being removed in the statute. So you'll see them probably every year now in the next few years. The next one, AB 640. That's the wrong one. There it is, Frazier. Sex crimes, investigation, and prosecution. So this one here, training, it's a training bill. This one now includes the investigation and prosecution of sexual abuse cases involving, I'm gonna go back. It's involving people with developmental disability, youth with developmental disabilities. And it creates a training, and it also creates a task force that will develop the training. It's in state statute now that it will have to be developed. It talks about the importance of focusing on crime against people with developmental disabilities. It talks about that 3 times the rate of crime is found to be at least 3 times higher in our community than the general population, and expresses that this is an urgent crisis in our community. So that's always good to see that in statute, and then in addition to that, there will be some rules on what the training will look like. So the Office of Emergency Services will establish that advisory committee who will meet ongoing after the course is developed as well. So that one is an emphasis on focusing on training for professionals in the field, for the prosecutors. The only opposition to on that one, I think that's the bill with a little bit of opposition. There was opposition by the California attorneys for criminal justice, and their only opposition was that this should apply to all other attorneys as well. So that was it. So they said, well, we oppose for these reasons, or here's our opposition, and was expanding, make it more. So that was, I guess, a good opposition then to have. So recognizing the importance of it. Did I miss that one? WASO 338, Senate Bill 338, Senior and Disability Victimization, Law Enforcement Policies and Support. So this is looking at the current policies that are at the various law enforcement, local law enforcement, and it expresses that there should be policies that relate to the information about people with disabilities and seniors, and as victims, and let me go right back there. Local law enforcement agencies are authorized to adopt these new policies, and if they do any changes to their current policies within after April 13th, 2021, they must accommodate the new language here. So they must include that as well. So it also talks about bias. So the perpetrator committed crime, you must now have information about did the perpetrator target the person with a disability because of their developmental disability, because of their disability. And so if you do that, and that's a hate crime, and there's some rules now, because of this bill, that will specify in their policies, they've got to say that they have looked into that. So that's another important area. LABA, quite a few on the public safety arena. LABA's bill, 735, Public Social Services, Accommodation, Notification, and Support. So in public services, applications, this adds questions that permit the applicant or recipient to disclose the disability, the need for the accommodation due to disability, and any experience of domestic violence. So they wanted to add some questions in here that sort of elicit that response. They want to know more and then provide them with services. So this has to do with applying for public services. So it says here, it ensures that people with disabilities and survivors of domestic violence receive accommodations that they need without having to repeatedly disclose their life situation. So there's some sharing of information that will now occur so that they don't have to, and they can be used in this area so that they don't have to, every time they apply, tell these stories. These are stories that are very difficult for people to relive every time they have to talk about it. So this bill helps them so that they don't have to do that all the time. Let's see here, how am I doing? Oh, and I have the next person, Candace.
Okay, so safety net and developmental centers. So the restraints will be limited to community crisis homes. So currently, a facility is not supposed to use a physical restraint for longer than 15 minutes. However, the department may authorize the exception. And it has to do with immediate health and safety of the residents as well as the staff in the facility and the serious harm. The enhanced behavior support sunset has been changed from 2020 to 2021. This includes that the enhanced behavior supports facility program plan will ensure that the physical restraint or containment will not be used as an extended procedure in accordance. So basically, we can't use restraint as a behavior plan, making sure that that information is within the program design. And the certain consumers must be on the caseload. Nicole Weiss talked about this today during class about caseload ratios. There's specific definition of consumers with complex needs, and those consumers are identified as within the last 6 months receiving regional center funded mobile crisis services, within the last 6 months current receiving state operated crisis assessment for stabilization, placement in a community crisis home, placement in acute crisis, within the last 6 months are currently placed in locked psychiatric setting, placed in an IMD, or placed in a county jail. There's a formula for a 12-month time plus an exemption process. So if it has been longer than 6 months since they received these services, but they need more services, they can still be placed on that team. So DDS will work with ARCA to identify individuals who need to be counted under each category based on regional center purchase of service data, the client master file, and other services. DDS specifically will send VMRC a letter with further direction on this and will include the category for an annual caseload ratio survey beginning in March of 2020.
The letter was due in October, but
Really?
and we have about
It's not here yet.
4 times as many consumers
Then they
according to
identify.
their criteria than they're funding us for right now.
I was just looking at the third bullet.
The third bullet.
They would update.
Update the safety net plan by January 10th, 2020, and I don't believe that's been updated.
They're working on it.
Working on it.
Don't pay attention to the year.
Okay, Liz?
It's totally low by that.
I was looking at that this morning.
And were you surprised? Oh, forever pouring.
Okay, so I'm gonna first be going over Assembly Bill 781, which is on Medi-Cal family respite care and support. So existing law indicates that pediatric daycare is covered under Medi-Cal services. And so this bill is going to say that these may be provided at any time during the day and any day of the week. So this bill also authorizes pediatric care to be covered for up to 23 hours in a calendar day. Support for this bill comes from the Pediatric Day Healthcare Coalition, or PDHCC, ARCA and Together We Grow. And support indicates that this allows parents to work while knowing their kids are going to be cared for in a safe, supportive environment. Also indicating that it's a valuable service for families with children with significant health needs. And the support also indicates the bill states that the bill will provide flexibility on times of day of the week when that will enable parents to get services to best meet the children's needs. So they can go to work and know their children are going to be cared for up to 23 hours in the day. AB 1004 is on developmental screening services. So existing law for this one provides that the Medi-Cal program, which including early and periodic screening, diagnostic, and treatment, or EPSDT services for any individual under 21 years of age who are covered under Medi-Cal consistent with requirement under federal law. Under existing law, one of the methods by which Medi-Cal services are provided is pursuant to contracts with various types of managed care plans. And existing law requires the department pay a fixed rate to managed care plans. Also existing federal law provides that the EPSDT services include periodic screening services, vision services, dental services, hearing services, and other necessary services to correct deficits and physical and mental illnesses and conditions discovered by the screening services, whether or not the services are covered under the state plan. So this bill, consistent with current federal laws, indicates that screening services provided by the EPSDT benefit include developmental screening services for individuals 0 to 3 years of age, inclusive, and would require Medi-Cal managed care plans to ensure that providers who are in contract with these plans render those services in conformity with the specified standards. The bill also requires external quality review of these services. And the support for this bill is from Children Now and First 5 LA, which argue that by establishing these clear guidelines and oversight, the developmental screening for children of 0 to 3 delays will be identified early, and California's children will be more able to achieve their great potential. Also, by requiring a review, the bill will help close crucial oversight and data gaps and inform efforts to address the shortcomings in the state developmental screening practices going forward.
It's somebody else, huh? We had a few absences this morning, people getting sick. But we've got people plugging in. So this next part that we're going to go over, we call it civil rights and recognitions. And what happens often throughout the year is that you might see an ACR or SCR, and that SCR is just a Senate concurrent resolution, and the ACR is a Assembly concurrent resolution. And these resolutions are statements that the legislature wants to make. And they're not binding, they're not really laws, they don't have to be signed by the governor or anything like that, but there are statements of things that are important to the people of California. And they bring them forward to the floor, and their house passes them. So it doesn't even go along that same process that we introduced earlier. So I'll run you through a few of these. So first of all, we have BONTA, ACR 1, Immigration Public Charges Support. Well, support is the position. The purpose for this was to make a statement from California legislature that the changes in the public charge policy should not have occurred. Should not occur, and that Congress should go back and change their minds. So they're not compelling. Congress doesn't have to follow these resolutions that the states make, but the states have this process for at least expressing what's important to them in their state and letting Congress know that. So it gives them a little feedback, and maybe they might change their mind at some point, but it doesn't happen that often. This one, again, was related to the public charge, and ARCA was among many others who supported this resolution that again is non-binding. But the ARCA statement is to the extent to which this proposal will have a chilling effect on access to critical services, particularly those that have lifelong positive impacts through early intervention, cannot be overstated. This proposal is likely to reduce access to and utilization of developmental services. So this proposal, not this proposal, but the proposal in Congress related to the public charge. So it's a statement, like I said, a position kind of statement. This one is Assembly Current Resolution 53 with Grayson, California Down Syndrome Awareness Week. Every year, when things are important to the legislature, they want to express that we will spend this week or recognize this day in an appreciation or recognition of the importance of whatever the topic is. And in this case, it is to establish through the Assembly concurrent resolution that March 24th was California Down Syndrome Awareness Week. And then March 21st would be the day. So there would be a recognition for that. So if you ever think that there should be some topic that should rise to the level to be talked about on the floor of in the legislature, that there's not enough awareness of or recognition of, then that would be a time where you would say that to your local legislature. So Assembly Concurrent Resolution 58, the Special Olympics Day. So another day in recognition of the importance of Special Olympics. These bills and these resolutions also come with a little bit of history sometimes, so you can read about the history of this issue, and in these cases it would be the history and the value of Special Olympics. So same thing again with the Assembly with Lackey, and this one is on Special Olympics support. So that is just a recognition that the legislature supports it. No longer, there might be a day, but we want to be really clear that we also support it. So, Frazier, HR 21, relative to Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. And so, March is Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. And so there's, every year, there's a recognition of the month. So, at some point, somebody has to express that in the state. It's a national month. You know, there's always there's a whole bunch of months and weeks that are recognized nationally, but they don't get recognized here formally until somebody does it. 50th anniversary of the Special Olympics, so on a special occasion of something, there's a recognition of that as well, and that's what this one was. These all passed already. All right, you ready? Any questions on those? I take questions on those all day, that's easy. You got a question?
She has a
Can I
question.
ask a question?
Lady in the balcony, yes.
Way back here in the balcony, we were wondering if Valley Mountain Regional Center would be doing anything to support the Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month.
Ooh, that's a good question. Would Valley Mountain Regional Center do anything publicly in recognition of the month?
I propose that the Valley Mountain Compliance Manager comes up with ideas to present to the rest of the staff.
I think that's a great use of
I
the
second
new
that.
compliance manager
Seconded.
to find those. There's one on employment in October, if we do that with our employment specialist. But this would be an overall umbrella of the value of our community, and our compliance manager would be a good person for that. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm gonna talk a little bit about diversity, and there's two bills that really affect our diverse population. One is regarding implicit bias within the court system, and the other is about emergency services and how are we gonna support people with cultural differences in being prepared for emergencies. So AB 242, currently the existing law authorizes the Judicial Council to provide by rule of the courts for racial, ethnic, and gender biases, sexual harassment training, and training for any other bias based on sex, race, color, religion, ancestry, natural origin, ethnic group identification, age, mental disability, physical disability, medical condition, genetic information, marital status, or sexual orientation for judges, commissioners, and referees. So the bill would authorize the Judicial Council to develop training on implicit bias with respect to these characteristics. The bill would require that all court staff who interact with the public complete a 2-hour training developed by the Judicial Council every 2 years. The bill would authorize the Judicial Council to rule the court effective January 1st, 2021. The bill requires that the state bar adopt regulations to require the mandatory continuing legal education curriculum to include training on implicit bias and promotion of bias-reducing strategies. The bill would require a licensee of the state bar to meet the requirements for the mandatory continuing legal education, ending after January 31st, 2023. So SB 160 is regards to emergency services and cultural competence. So it is the inherent responsibility of the government to protect life during an emergency, and for local governments, that responsibility includes readying prepared plans to prepare their communities for natural and human-caused disasters. The developing nature of California's wildfires continues to increase in intensity, and the destruction every year, making it paramount that local emergency plans acclimate to the nature of the fire season in this new normal. So in order for these emergency plans to be more effective in addressing future disasters, they must reflect and integrate the needs of all Californians' diverse population to avoid disproportionate impacts to some of our most vulnerable communities, similar to those impacts by the elderly and non-English speaking communities during the 2017 and 2018 California wildfires. So currently, this bill would require a county to integrate cultural competence as defined in its emergency plan upon the next update to its emergency plan as specified. The bill would also require a county to provide a forum for community engagement in geographically diverse locations in order to engage with culturally diverse communities within its jurisdiction. The bill would also authorize a county to establish a community advisory board for the purpose of co-hosting, coordinating, and conducting outreach for community engagement forums.